Okay, and welcome to this Alabama adventure. And we're going to try to get things going today right here in front of this old house. And I don't mean to be plugging another TV show or something like that, but this is just an old house here in the hometown where I live that belongs to the town. And I just wanted you to see it real quick. It's probably not going to be here very much longer, but I just wanted you to take a look at it. The house should be on the National Register of Historical Places, landmarks, whatever it's called, but they're wanting to tear it down. As you probably already know, there is a small minority group of, I call them a minority because they're not, don't represent everybody, group of people that want to do away with all the history that's in this country, and they're doing all they can to do that. And a lot of those people undoubtedly live right here because a lot of history that will be associated with this town that could really bring some tourist dollars into it wants to be done away with, just like this old house. Let me tell you about it, and I'll give you a little bit closer look at it real quick. This is a house that has been here ever since this town has been here, and I have got to the point where I won't even refer to the name of the town anymore. But anyway, what it was, this was a doctor's house at one time, and it was in a whole lot better shape than what it's in now. Actually, the old house is in pretty good shape compared to the age. It just needs repainting and the roof painting and just a little bit of restoration, and it would be a very nice house. Reason I say it's historical, the doctor that ran his practice out of this house was blind, and he practiced his profession for many years right here, and from what I have been told, he was a very good doctor. Now, as always, when we start an Alabama adventure, everybody crowds to it to see what we're doing and what we're talking about, and if they can get on the camera or whatever. And of course, they crank up every lawnmower in town they can find, so let's just listen to that lovely sound every time we start doing a video. I've come by here almost all morning this morning getting ready for this, and nobody's cranked up a lawnmower until we actually stop. Thank you so much. It's just a wonderful place to live. But anyway, we also, as I have told you, we have a Indian mound, and you can see it right there. And that should be capitalized on here in this town also, along with this old house, the Indian mound. We have a nice college. We have a lot of things that could be capitalized on to make a tourist town out of it. But somebody might have to get up and actually do something. And if they couldn't pocket every dime that came along, then no, we don't want to do that. But anyway, getting off of my political and that type of views, what we're going to do today is we're going to be going on an adventure similar to Indiana Jones. We are not going to be searching for the Ark of the Covenant. We're certainly not going to be searching for the Holy Grail or anything like that. But what we are going to be looking for, or what we're going to be talking about, is the eyes of the ceramic cat. Now, doesn't that sound like an Indiana Jones adventure? I hope so, and I hope you'll enjoy it. And let's get on down the road, and we'll go down to where we're going to be talking about this ceramic frog in just a few minutes. But first, I have to go to the grocery store.
It's not a cat. It's supposed to be a ceramic frog.
I said what?
Cat.
Cat? Where did cat come from? I'll try it again. Okay, now what we're going to be doing today is kind of like an Indiana Jones adventure. No, we're not going to be searching for the Lost Ark or the Holy Grail. We're not even going to go on our last and final crusade. We might find a crystal skull or two on our journey today. But anyway, what we're going to be doing today is we're going in search of the eyes of the ceramic frog. That's what we're going to be looking for today. Doesn't that sound kind of like an Indiana Jones adventure? The search for the eyes of the ceramic frog. But before we do that, I have got to run to the grocery store real quick, and then we'll get on this adventure. Now, before we do leave town, I do want to show you something else that we also have here in this particular town that could be capitalized on, and something should actually be done with this. It's the old train depot, and right down there is the old train depot. You probably heard me talk about it in some other videos that we have done, but anyway, that building was actually donated by the railroad to the town to do anything with they wanted. And what they decided to do with it was let it sit there and rot down. But on to the grocery store. I have to get down there and back before I can actually get my video going today. Alrighty, that's Highway 22, Alabama Highway 22. And right here, This road is the world famous Frogeye Road. It's also known as, let me get right over here and get you a close-up of this county road sign. It's also County Road 062, Chambers County 062. But right there is the world famous Frogeye Road, and that's where we're headed. So come along on this Alabama adventure as we venture to Frogeye today. And as we're venturing down the road, I'll just show you a little bit of scenery from through the windshield and let Dorothy put on a little bit of traveling music once again. Remember the little red schoolhouse? Right out there. Yeah, maybe we got it. But anyway, let's go on down Frogeye Road. I ought to write a song about that. Like I do a little logging over here where we just videoed last week. You remember we came through and I was telling you about all the paranormal activity that happened along this road and all the Bigfoot and all that type of stuff that had been seen? Well, somebody's looking for it. Look at all that logging. Ah, yes. Beautiful Alabama. Alabama at its finest. Okay, now here's just a little bit more of Frogeye Road. I want you to look at it real quick. Notice the trees. I better show you them real quick. Maybe next time we come down through here next week, all of these will be gone. But anyway, it's just something of the past that needs to be destroyed, like a forest, and because there's nothing living out there. And portals. Just think of all the portals that may be done away with in this forest, because this is where we got the picture of the portal in that video just about a couple of weeks ago. So is that why they're in here? They're worried about finding portals or destroying portals? Was the portal had something to do with the eclipse? Was that why we got a photograph of it about a week before the eclipse? Very possible. But anyway, just something else you might want to see that's fixing to be a part of the past here in Alabama. The beautiful forest. Where we're going. All right, we have made it to our destination. We are in Frogeye, Alabama, and I'm going to give you a good close-up shot of the sign right now. This is the second sign that's been put up down here lately. I was told somebody came by and they had one similar to this not very long ago and stole it. Now, I don't know why you would want to steal a wooden sign like this, because there's not any money in metal, but I'm surprised the flagpole's still there, I guess. But anyway, right here, I'll show you this little sign. We're at the intersection of Drake and Bibby's Ferry Road, and I'll tell you a little something about Bibby's Ferry. That's the way it's spelled, B-I-B-B-Y, but it's usually pronounced Bibby's. Usually people down this way that I've talked to, but everybody may not, but a lot of people, I guess, mispronounce it like we do a lot of stuff here in Alabama. But the man that actually ran the ferry, well, whenever it closed down, that was his last name, was Bibby. And I'll tell you a little something about that in just a minute. But anyway, I want to tell you a little something about Frogeye. Now, as I said, that's Bibby's Ferry Road right over there, or Frogeye Road, whatever you want to call it. And this is Drake Road that comes out of Daviston, Alabama. If you go to Daviston and you look at Highway 22 at the intersection of Drake Road, then you just follow it right straight on down here to Frogeye. And right down through there, I believe, is also Bibby's Road that went down to the ferry. There was a ferry that ran down here for years and years, and it hadn't been long closed down. I guess maybe 10, 15 years or so. I'm not exactly sure how long it's been not in use. Okay, so what I want to do now is to tell you the story of how Frogeye got its name. And what we were talking about earlier, the eyes of the ceramic frog. Now, the eyes of the frog held a secret. It held a story. It held a warning. And I'm going to tell you about that now. So what it was right back down this road, like you go into the ferry. Right down here was a saloon at one time. And in this saloon, in the front window, sat a large ceramic frog. Okay, now the frog was sitting there for a reason. This particular frog, his eyes would move. His eyes would actually open and close. And they could open the eyes or close the eyes whenever the owner got ready. And that plays a big part in the story. What it was, in those days, you could buy legal whiskey, which had tax paid on it, at this saloon, of course. You could also buy illegal whiskey, which was homemade, and it did not have tax paid on it. So the revenuers kind of knew this, and they kind of watched the place and kept an eye on it. And if somebody came in and ordered the illegal whiskey and they sold it, then the revenuers would have them. They could shut them down and fine them and all this type of stuff. But anyway, so the story goes with the ceramic frog was the eyes opening and closing. The code was, or the secret of the frog was, if you came to that saloon and this frog's, one of his eyes was closed, then you could not buy illegal whiskey. You could buy the other if his eye was closed, but you could not buy, or don't ask for it, because they're not going to sell it. They're going to deny they have it. If both eyes were open, then you could order anything you wanted down there, just whichever one, the homemade whiskey or the tax-paid whiskey, whatever it was. But that's how Frogeye got its name, was from the ceramic frog that sat in the saloon to warn you or to tell you when to order what type of whiskey. But that's the story that I've always heard on how Frogeye got its name. Okay, now when I started doing the research on what little I could do on Frogeye, there's not a whole lot of history still known about it. Let me get on back over here a little bit closer to the sign so you can see me maybe with the sign behind me, since we're talking about Frogeye. One other thing that is kind of famous here in Frogeye was a man, I believe his name was Captain Hodnett, was what they called him. I don't know his first name, or he was just called Captain Hodnett, and he owned a lot of land here in Frogeye. And back around the early 1920s, when Lake Martin was completed, just on down the river here a little ways, and that's what Bibby's Ferry crossed, was the Tallapoosa River that I was talking about earlier. I left that out, but I'm putting it in now. So anyway, he had some land here, and Alabama Power or the state or somebody decided that later on they might want to build a dam back up the river a little further from Lake Martin, and if they did, they needed some land. So they paid this Captain Hodnett in gold in those days for the land down here. And I forgot how much land it was. It seemed like it was 11 or 12 acres or something like that. But anyway, he didn't want just money put in the bank. He wanted cash money, and he wanted it in gold, because many old people back in those days remembered when the banks went broke and the Depression came on, that they lost everything they had. So that's the way that it was with him. And I'm checking to see if my camera's still running, and I believe it is. Anyway, so the story is that whoever bought the land from him, Power Company or the state of Alabama, whoever it was, paid him in 11 $50 gold pieces. And those 11 $50 gold pieces have never been found. He did not use the bank. He hid it somewhere, possibly somewhere here in Frogeye. So there's a lost treasure in Chambers County that would be 11 $50 gold pieces. And those things should be worth a lot of money now. Whatever 11 times 50, I'd have to get me a calculator to tell you exactly what that is. But that's what he was paid in. The money was never found. It was never put in a bank. And whenever he died, he never told anyone where he hid it. So, you know, you might could locate a lost treasure. That's another story here in Frogeye. Okay, and now the final story that I know about Frogeye is the ferry. As I said earlier, there was a ferry that ran, Bibby's Ferry is what it's called. And it ran for many, many years. The first ferry was made out of wood. The second ferry was made out of metal and was made in Birmingham. I forgot the name of I can't remember the name of the foundry or the place that actually built the ferry in Birmingham, but it was brought down here and it was reassembled whenever they built it. And we're going to go down to Chambers County Museum because they still have the second ferry down there on display, and we're going to look at it right now. Alrighty, I'm on the way back from Frogeye, and I came back by the place I showed you earlier where they're logging, and I want you to see that sign. That's 133, so you'll know exactly where it was. If you go back to that old video, you remember I walked right out here in the woods, right out here on the side of the road, and I told you how dense these woods were and that anything could live in there. And it has really improved since that video. As a matter of fact, if I'll be quiet, you can hear them cutting and loading over there right now. Just wanted to give you a little shot of that to see how the land has changed in case you want to come to Frogeye, or in case you want to come over here and hunt that portal, or maybe another portal. Alrighty, we better move on before they cut this tree right here in front of me and it falls on me. But anyway, and one other thing I did want to add before we go is, you remember in that video I told you right up there in that curve, right there on top of that hill, was where the little red schoolhouse was. So at least you'll know how the kind of the land, the lay of the land, the look of the land has kind of changed. But anyway, that's what we call progress here in Alabama. Alrighty, and now we're down here in Lafayette, Alabama, and I know that's not the proper way to say it. It's supposed to be Lafayette, but most people here in Alabama just call it Fett. We're down here in Fett, Alabama right now at the Chambers County Museum, and that's it right here behind me. Let me show you the Chambers County Museum real quick right there. This is about 2 days later from when I was actually doing this other video. So anyway, that's why I've changed shirts and that's why I've changed hats. But over here behind me is what I want you to look at. I want you to see the old Frogeye Bibby's Ferry. And let me get the camera turned around. Okay, this is the ferry right here. And this right here is the ramp where the cars went on, and they pulled right up here on this thing. And then I guess they cranked it up and it went across the river. Anyway, that'll give you a little bit of shot. I'm sort of having to hold it over my head. So you can see, here's the paddle wheel. There's a paddle wheel here and a paddle wheel over there on the other side. And then back there's the other ramp where you went off the other side. And there was a cable that went through this thing to hold it in place as you went across. There's a little marker right here, and I'll show that to you and I'll try to read it. It says Bibby's Ferry, 1839 to 1982, Tallapoosa River. This vehicle replaced wooden boats used until 1946. Bibby's the longest operated of 12 ferries in Chambers County. Dedicated Chambers County Museum in 1994. Okay, and as you can see right here, it's on a little plaque, bricked up, and they have bricked up around the ferry, around the bottom there, as you can see. I guess that's to hold it steady and hold it in place in case you climb up there on it. But let me get over here on the other end and we'll get another little angle of it. But I did want you to see this thing. There's the other ramp right there that went on when you went across the river. You went on one side and you came off the other side. So let's back on up. And I'll get a shot of this the best I can. And then let me go around over here to the other side. It's kind of getting late in the day, and the lighting may not be very well on it, but anyway, we just got on down here whenever we could. And this is the other side of the ferry. And just one of the things that day passed in time. I'll go back over here again to give you another little shot. When you come, if you come down to Lafayette, as we call it here in Alabama, or Fett, as most of us call it, as I said, you sure want to run by the Chambers County Museum. We're going to come back down here one of these days pretty soon, and let me get you another little shot of the ferry up through there. This thing ran for a long, long time. This was the second ferry that was used. As I said earlier, I believe I said, the first ferry was made out of wood, and then it was replaced with this metal one. It was actually made in Birmingham, then brought down to Frogeye, assembled and put together, and it was used for many, many years. Okay, and then let me get a shot of our vehicle, and this old train caboose is right across the road. You'll want to check that out too whenever you get down here. But as I said, I'll give you another shot of the old train depot in Lafayette. If you're down this way, you certainly want to come check this out. But anyway, I'm going to walk on around here and get ready to go. And I'll get you one more little shot of the ferry. A thing of the past.